Kevin's a spider, Kyrie is the pig. They get along somewhat well, okay?
Uh-huh.
And then James Harden. A butcher with a giant cleaver knife that just comes in and chops the head of the pig off.
Luke, were you aware that in America, way more people like the white chicken meat than the dark chicken meat?
I like white meat.
Yeah, but do you prefer the white meat or the dark meat?
Usually I prefer white. I like both, but
Because
it depends. I like white.
I like both of them, but I for sure prefer the dark meat of a chicken.
Interesting.
Or a turkey. And one of my parents, I forget why, said to me earlier this week something about how people generally prefer white chicken, and that just shocked me. Because, like, I don't know. The texture isn't as nice. It's not as smooth. It kind of crumbles when you try to cut it.
I might like dark meat better. We don't really ever have dark meat. We're predominantly, we predominantly have white meat.
Well, yeah, because that was what I learned, is that America predominantly uses white meat.
I think occasionally my grandma will have dark meat, but, like, I don't remember the last time I've eaten a piece of dark meat.
We normally have, like, both, and I always go dark meat if I have the option. Because, I don't know. It's like the texture
I just have to
is
give another
better.
shot sometime.
I'll come eat
chicken at your house
There's a
one day.
video. We'll just Luke eats dark meat. It'll be like 2 minutes long. It'll be great. People will love it. But yeah, I looked up like information about the chicken consumption in America, and I'm assuming the numbers were thrown off because like most restaurants probably make their chicken nuggets with white meat.
Yeah.
So like that throws off the numbers a little bit. But
And
like Chick-fil-A is probably mostly
Chick-fil-A is like the
white
biggest
meat,
fast food chain ever.
Yeah, because chicken nuggets wouldn't look quite as appeasing if they were darker.
No, they would look rotten.
They would, yeah. But just eating like a chicken or a turkey has
unless for some reason
meat,
they
right?
advertised dark meat chicken nuggets. If they just started randomly using dark meat, people would send them back all the time and like complain about them. But
actually, Chick-fil-A, heads up, new promotion for you guys: dark meat chicken nuggets. Feel free to hit us up.
Oh man,
that would look disgusting.
That would look so bad. But now on to the real news for this week.
I thought that was big news.
That was big news.
But even bigger news.
Even bigger news. One of the headlines that we have been waiting for so long now.
For like 3 months.
Doug.
A really long time.
Is gone.
Doug Peterson has been fired by the Philadelphia Eagles. Still not sure how I feel about it. I'll obviously be happy if we get a coach who's good.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'll be sad if we get a coach who's bad.
I think Doug going was good. If we get a good coach, I think it's good. But I think Howie was a big problem as well. I think he needs to go.
Yeah.
He definitely
That's
needs
a bigger issue.
Howie
we still have Howie
an issue,
Roseman.
yeah.
Because he built the roster.
Especially with this draft coming up. This is going to be a pretty big draft for us. Everyone in the world knows who the Eagles need to take.
A wide receiver.
Hopefully Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith drops to 6.
Oh, I'm confident.
One of them definitely will.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of who.
The 5 picks before the Eagles, there's going to be...
Jets and Jags take quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's 2. Dolphins will take a wide receiver, probably.
The Dolphins will probably take a wide receiver or the offensive tackle out of Oregon.
Yeah.
Piene Sewell. He has an interesting name. I don't know how to pronounce it yet. But yeah, say 3 of the top 5 picks are quarterbacks. We're guaranteed
and those top 3, what do you say they are?
To get one out of the 2.
It's Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, and
Zach
Wilson.
Yeah, it's those 3. And basically we either need 3 out of the top 5 to be a quarterback, and then the one that's not, even if it's a wide receiver, we get the other one.
Yeah.
Or it's 2 quarterbacks, an offensive tackle, and a wide receiver. Either way, we still get
Smith
that other
or
Chase falls to us.
I have a feeling
it's very unlikely that one of them doesn't get to 6.
I have a feeling we're going to obtain
Jamar Chase. Yeah,
that's the thing.
Really difficult.
Is it Devonta or Devontae?
It's Devonta.
It's spelled Devonta, but
everybody says Devontae, and it really frustrates me.
No. Well, I always said Devonta, and then I was watching the Alabama-Ohio State game, and they always said Devontae, and I'm like,
it's so frustrating.
Is it Devontae?
It's Devonta.
So then I started saying Devontae.
It's Devonta.
But is it Devonta?
I think it's Devonta because Devontae Adams either tweeted or put on his Instagram, like,
I did see
when
that.
you guys mispronounce my name, make sure to mispronounce it Devonta, because that guy's amazing. So I was like, well, Devontae, it's obviously not. You don't mispronounce Devontae as Devontae, because that's correctly pronouncing it.
So I think you might be right, but honestly, I've gotten so confused.
Yeah.
People are pronouncing it every which way.
I think it's Devonta.
I agree. That's exactly how it's spelled. It's not spelled unless it's a long A, Devontae, like with an AY.
Devontae. So Doug Peterson's out. Hopefully, Howie Roseman is out soon. Doug's
I can't even talk.
Doug's last moment as the Eagles head coach could result in us getting Jamar Chase or Devonta Smith. Because if we had won that game against the football team, if he hadn't tanked it,
we would have dropped to 9.
We would have been at 9 and maybe not gotten either of them. So
Definitely
thank you, Doug.
Either of them.
Appreciate it, Doug.
You left your mark, Doug, and I mean, thank you.
Well, he also left his mark by, winning a Super Bowl, but also by losing the last game. That too.
Yeah.
Equal left marks.
Except when you win a Super Bowl, you don't lose the last game, you win the last game.
Well, but like the last game that he...
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
So he left his mark on the last game of the season both times.
Yes.
Good job, Doug.
Way to go, Doug.
Another huge...
Far enough, yeah, that's not even the biggest headline that we've seen this week.
James Harden has been traded for a... That should be our... I'm going to cut that up. And that's going to be... You know how, at the draft, they have the music before a pick, or like ESPN has breaking news music. That's our breaking news music.
You're gonna be like, we have some huge news.
James Harden has been traded to the Brooklyn Nets for a boatload of picks, and also
I think
a footnote in this trade is that Victor Oladipo went to the Rockets. People just graze over that one.
Can I please
glaze
say
over
the Rockets won this trade? The Rockets won this trade, no doubt about it.
The Rockets won.
The Nets are going to fall into a fiery chaos. As you saw, Owen posted earlier on the story to vote whether they're going to be good or fiery chaos. They are going to fall into a fiery chaos. James Harden is toxic. Kyrie Irving is mental. And
Kevin Durant's the most likable player of the three, which is shocking. When you're saying Kevin Durant's the most likable of a big three, that's saying something.
But still, he's kind of odd.
Well, he's called the snake for a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah, Kevin Durant and his big threes. From a basketball standpoint, I am fascinated to see how this Nets team will operate. Like Luke said, I put up the
They're not going to operate.
Instagram story.
They just aren't
This team is either going to be one of the greatest of all time or collapse into a fiery ball of chaos.
The Nets were rebuilding. The Nets were going to be good. Well, they've been good, but they were good. They were going to continue to be good. They were going to be better. They were going to be even better than they were. And now they're going to fall, and they're going to go like under 500. No, actually, no, they're not going.
I don't think
under
that's
500.
true. They'll probably still be a good
they're going to
team.
be a fiery chaos mess that just does not succeed. Kyrie's the pig.
It's what?
Kevin Durant is the cow. No. Kevin Durant's the spider. They get along well. It's like Charlotte's Web.
Technically, Donovan Mitchell's the spider.
No.
But, okay.
Nope. Kevin's the spider. Kyrie is the pig. They get along somewhat well, okay? And then James Harden. A butcher with a giant cleaver knife that just comes in and chops the head of the pig off. And, I mean,
really fast.
Now the spider of Kevin Durant is, like, crying in the corner alone because he's sad. Kyrie is just dead on the sidelines, and James Harden is walking in shooting all these baskets, but missing like 90% of his shots.
That's not going to happen.
And it's going to fall apart. Do you get that analogy? Does that make sense?
Yes, that was a strange analogy.
But it makes sense.
Sure, as long as the butcher has a large beard.
The butcher can have as big of a beard as he wants.
Then, yes, it
makes
makes
to wear a hairnet, so he doesn't
total
get his hand in the
sense.
food.
I was going to do a little bit of analysis on how I think it's going to be interesting to see how all of these offensive players who constantly have the ball in their hand work together at the same time, because, there's only one basketball. They can't all have the ball in their hands at the same time.
They could cut it up with the giant cleaver knife that James Harden used to cut Kyrie Irving's head off.
It's a great point. But normal circumstances...
What's not normal about that?
They can't all have the ball at the same time. So I'll be fascinated to see how this offense operates. And also just they're three very interesting people, so I'll be interested to see how they work chemistry-wise off the court.
No, totally agree.
But then Luke just came in and just one-upped my analysis. You 10-upped my analysis. You blew mine out of the water. I couldn't possibly top that.
I blew yours out of the water on Earth.
Well, but yours came in first. Mine wasn't even in the water yet, and you just got rid of all the water.
And then it hit the ground and crumbled.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I vacuumed the water out of the lake.
Yep. All right. That's it for this part of the episode. We have an interview this week with Naila-Jean Meyers of the Star Tribune. Parker and I did that earlier this week, so Luke is about to disappear and Parker's about to appear, and hope you guys enjoy that interview. We are joined now by Naila-Jean Meyers, the Senior Assistant Sports Editor of the Star Tribune, which is a large newspaper in Minnesota. Naila, could
The largest.
The biggest. There you go.
Yeah.
Wow, there you have it. You heard it here first. The Star Tribune.
Did we?
Actually, no, that was
I don't
probably
think
out of
anybody
the
heard it
for a while.
anywhere else. But the biggest newspaper in Minnesota. Do you want to tell them just a little bit about yourself, Naila?
Sure. My name is Naila. I work for the Star Tribune in Minneapolis, where I am the NFL editor, among other things. And I've been working there for about a year. Actually, not about, almost exactly a year. And had previously been a sports editor at the New York Times. And I also worked in sports at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and Sporting News. I've been watching football basically my whole life. There's pictures of me in the high chair, raising my arms for making the touchdown motion, which apparently I did all the time.
That's
when I watched
awesome.
football on Sundays, and just would imitate what the referees were doing. So I have evidence that I've basically been a lifelong football fan. You know, one of the other ways that I developed as a sports fan is because in Iowa, this is actually not really possible now, I don't think. But in Iowa, because there were no pro teams there, but you had access to tons of them because there were so many in the region. So if you turned on the radio, you could get a Cubs game, a Twins game, a Cardinals game. And then back then, the Cubs were on nationally on WGN, and the Braves were on nationally on TBS. So you could watch baseball all day. You could find a bunch of games on the radio. I became a big baseball fan that way. And the rest is history, I guess. But, you know, you can't really do that in Iowa now because of Major League Baseball has all these blackout rules about how you can watch, who you can watch and how you can watch. And I just don't think, because there aren't really super stations anymore, it's regional sports networks, I just don't know that a baseball fan in Iowa can watch as much baseball as I could when I was a kid without, you know, having to pay MLB for whatever their...
Yeah, all-inclusive access, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
My family
Their very expensive video tier is at this point, but
Yeah.
I was lucky, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody who grew up in that time period was lucky that they got to watch... Everybody in the early 90s watched the Braves, because, yeah, it was on TBS, so that worked out.
I was watching them, I would like to brag, I was watching them in the late 80s when they were really bad.
Oh,
So,
there you go.
So you were there since the
because
beginning.
that was the thing. I loved baseball, and the Cubs at the time played only during the day when they were at home because they didn't have lights at Wrigley Field until the late 80s, and so you could come home from school, or it'd be the summer, right, when you're not at school, and you could turn on a game in the daytime. You could watch the Cubs in the afternoon and the Braves at night. You just watch baseball all day. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My family doesn't pay for we don't have cable or any of those. We just have the regular channels. So I still listen to Phillies games on the radio because we don't get the games on TV.
Yeah, old school.
It
still works.
The radio still works.
Oh, right,
No
yeah.
kidding.
It is probably the way you'd have to do it now. Or, without paying for some service.
One of the questions I have is, like, when did you, think to yourself, I want to go into sports, like something related to sports, and what steps did you take once you figured that out?
Well, actually, that's related to the TV and radio we were just talking about. I am a Cubs fan, and I listen to the Cubs and watch the Cubs a lot, and back then, there was Harry Carey. Harry Carey was on TV, and he was on the radio. And so he would do the first 3 innings on TV, and then the middle 3 on the radio, and then the last 3 on TV, or something like that. He was on both TV and radio in a game. And I thought that was like the greatest job in the world. Like, you could talk about baseball all day. That's your job.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. And probably when I was younger than you guys are, probably 11 or 12,
Okay.
I thought this is what I was like. I want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to just talk about baseball all day. You know, as I got older, I liked writing a lot more, and just by the time I got to college, while I still loved sports, I was really more focused on writing instead of broadcasting.
Okay.
But I knew for a long time I wanted to go into journalism. But when I went to college, I focused more on journalism as a whole. I didn't specialize in sports journalism when I was in school.
Okay.
Part of that was that was just me wanting to try a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I did do some sports radio when I was in college. I worked for the radio station and did like little sports casts during the morning news show, and I worked in the studio for football games and baseball games and stuff. So I did my sports journalism part of my college days was on radio. When I graduated, I was just looking for a journalism job. It didn't kind of matter what
journalism job?
What I was doing. Except this idea, which has been true for my whole professional career, which is, you know, if you're in journalism and if you're a writer or an editor, which I have been both, it really helps to like what you're reading.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To enjoy what you're doing, and I think particularly if you're an editor, it helps. It helps to know a lot about what you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. Some people want to be war correspondents. I didn't want to do that. There were certain topics that I just liked better than others, and so my first job out of college was at Sporting News, and it happened to be a sports magazine. But that was just because that's the job that I got.
Yeah.
And I was 22. I had applied for a bunch of jobs, and it just so happens that was the job that I got. And so I always say, 12-year-old me thinks this is great. Like it's like I did everything that I was doing what 12-year-old me wanted to do. I just got there in a really kind of strange way.
Yeah.
But it was because I liked sports and knew a lot about it that I got that job.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I in fact this is sort of a long story, but I think it's applicable. I had done an internship at the newspaper in Toledo, Ohio.
Okay.
And this was, it was probably 20. It was between my sophomore and junior years of college. And when I got there, when I worked for the city desk, I was working for the city desk. Mm-hmm. And when they found out that I was a baseball fan, they have a AAA team in Toledo.
Okay.
They thought, we finally have an intern who will do this story that we want to do, which is how to be the mascot for the Toledo Mudhens. And so I did a story that summer of being the mascot for the Toledo Mudhens, which, by the way, is a giant yellow chicken, essentially, or a mudhen, whatever that is. So I did it. I dressed up as the chicken. I wrote a story about it. By the way, there's all kinds of rules about writing about mascots for the children.
Oh.
You need to maintain the illusion that that's a real chicken.
Like talking about Santa.
Like Santa, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So I wrote this story, and I had it in my clips, in my application, because it was one of the most original stories that I had done.
Yeah.
Right? And so I got to include that. It was also really hot in there. I had to really make it worth it. And so I also wrote it in my cover letter. I actually referred to the story in my cover letter. So in the pile of applications at Sporting News, they remembered that. They remembered the story of me dressing up as this yellow chicken, and they read the article and they liked it. So I basically credit doing that as getting my first job, because that's how I stood out in the pile of papers.
Yeah, kind of like
the pile of applications.
Yeah, that's how you stood out.
It was all because I was a baseball fan, and the city editors in Toledo, Ohio, were like, "Let's dress her up as a chicken and make her write about it."
So, what does a normal work week look like for the senior assistant sports editor of the Star Tribune?
Normal work week. Well, let's say a normal work week in the football season, because the NFL season, because like this week, for example, is not a normal work week for me because the Vikings are out of the playoffs, and so this week I just have a bunch of meetings because I have a lot of free time.
Yes, sounds great.
Listen, kids, being in management, just a lot of meetings. It's not all glamorous. And these days, they're all just on Teams or some video call. So anyway, so a normal work week during the football season for me is, I would work if the week starts on Sunday. I'm more of the week ends on Sunday for me, right? It ends on game day.
Yeah.
But I work on game days, so that's coordinating the coverage of the game, who's doing what, how many stories we're writing, when they're going to file them, who we're going to write about, topics, and then I edit probably half of those stories myself. I couldn't possibly edit them all. There's too many and not enough time. So then I edit some of those stories myself, and then it's coordinating with the people putting out the paper about what photos to use and who we're writing about and all that stuff. Working with our web editors about getting the stories published, how they look, that sort of thing. Then you're sort of planning out the rest of the week already. Because it's not just from my group, my team's perspective. Like that's I'm having staff meetings and with other editors, and we're talking about how the week is going to go and what we're working on. But I'm also laying out, okay, a week ahead, what are we going to write about? What are we who's going to do what? I've got 3 reporters working for me, so it's who's going to do what this week, because Tuesday is a day off in the NFL, so you kind of got to make your plan on Monday. I take Tuesdays off usually during the NFL season, and some of my reporters do too. That if you're making that plan on Wednesday morning, it's kind of too late. There's all of a sudden you're dropped into Wednesday, and you've got the NFL week starts fresh, and it's a lot. And then all of a sudden you're already at Friday, and you're getting ready for the game. So the rest of the week is just assigning and talking through what we're going to write about. I edit most of those stories.
Yeah, I had never thought about how usually people take off Saturday and Sunday, those are the 2 off days for working, but you're not going to work on Tuesday. That's actually I've never thought about that.
The weekend's the most important time.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the dynamic in sports editing, sports writing,
sports media in general.
Yeah, sports media is that there's more males than females. Is that true?
It is 100% true.
Yeah. So
I don't know the exact percentage, but it is.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about either some challenges that you face, or if the dynamics of that, how does that work?
Well, yeah, I mean, the numbers are hardly ever in my favor, and I don't want to say my favor, but I've never been in a place that was majority female. So, I started. I mean, I also know that at the beginning of my career, there was a little novelty to that. A lot of companies were trying to hire more women because there just weren't any.
Yeah.
So it was to my advantage when I was starting out, and it's honestly still to my advantage because, again, women are still grossly underrepresented in sports journalism, and a lot of them leave. because it can be pretty tough sometimes. But I've stayed in it partly because I want to stay in it because women are underrepresented. And, I haven't, because I'm largely I don't spend as much time out on the road or with teams. So I have been lucky in a sense that I have not had any bad experiences with teams, for example, because of gender. I've definitely been condescended to, for sure. But it's hard to tell sometimes whether you're being condescended to because you're a woman or because you're young. Because I was definitely an issue earlier in my career. I was not just the only woman a lot of the times. I was the youngest person in the room. Being a woman was not an issue once I proved myself. So the fact that I had to prove myself, yes, that's not great. But once I proved myself to be knowledgeable and know what I was doing, I got the men that I work with have been very respectful. It was much harder to overcome being younger than everyone in that regard because especially if you're put in charge of people who are older than you.
That's an interesting
dynamic. That was an issue earlier in my career when I was put in charge, when I was much younger than everyone, and also put in charge. I mean, I've been lucky. I as far as actual experiences that I have not faced bad harassment. I have not. I couldn't be on a panel talking about harassment in sports media because it has not. I have not had personal experiences that were bad, thank God.
Which that's a good
thing.
thing.
But I definitely know enough women who have. I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't exist because it hasn't happened to me because it's happened to a lot of my friends. So
the numbers that I was able to find, male to female ratio in sports media is roughly 5 to 1.
I was watching football this weekend with my parents who don't follow these things as closely as I do, and we were watching, I think, the NFL Sunday show, the pregame show, I think, or the halftime show. I don't remember, but it was the ESPN. It was the ESPN one.
Yeah.
And I think it was Susie Colbert. So my dad was like, "Oh, there's a woman doing the show. She was the host of the show on the panel."
Yeah.
And I said, and he said it with, surprise, like, "Oh, I don't usually see a lot of women hosting the show." And I thought about it and went, "Oh, well, that's true because on the networks there aren't any women being the host of the show.
Yeah.
The women are on the sidelines, right? The way it's kind of quote unquote always been, right?
Yeah, the
But
sideline.
ESPN actually has a bunch of panel shows where the women, especially in the NFL, where women are a big part of them.
Yeah.
They do the same thing with NFL Live. Yeah. So, speaking of watching the football games, we've got the divisional round coming up this weekend. If you could only watch one divisional round game this week, which one are you watching?
That's a really good question. I'm going to tell you what, it's not Saints Bucks, because I don't think I can listen to them talk about Tom Brady and Drew Brees for 3.5 hours. That might be a lot.
Yeah,
I think,
that's true.
Yeah, for me. Speaking of narratives, I don't know. That might be a lot for me. I'm going to watch all four of them anyway, but let's see. I think it's probably hold on, my brain is frozen. It's Bills Ravens. Is that the game?
Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good one.
I was like the not Chiefs game. I was like, what is that game? It's Bills Ravens, right?
Yeah, Bills.
And then Chiefs Browns.
That is probably it. It's probably Bills Ravens.
Okay.
Because I think there's a lot of exciting things happening in that game.
Yeah. The young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Just sort of different teams,
Yeah.
I guess Chiefs Browns will be fun, but
yeah.
But
it might be fun.
It might be fun.
It's a little hard for me to figure out the Browns, right?
Yeah, it is confusing.
Because like that game against the Steelers was very confusing for many reasons, and I just don't think that the Browns. I just don't think Kansas City, given the extra week to prepare and having seen what the Browns did to the Steelers, is going to be sort of caught like the Steelers were.
Yeah, they're not going to underestimate them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like the Browns, knowing that they were surely being underestimated, right?
Yeah.
Because of the COVID, because they didn't have their coach, just kind of went for it. And they were really aggressive, and I don't know what the Steelers were doing. I don't know what they were doing. Whatever.
Yeah.
So I just don't know, whether, the Browns had this huge game against the Steelers, how much that actually means when it comes to playing the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, particularly with this offense that the Chiefs have, I just think that the Bills-Ravens is going to be a fun game, and they're sort of interesting teams, and they're kind of. I mean, new is not. Calling the Ravens new is sort of ridiculous.
It's not the Patriots.
Yeah, it's not the Patriots.
But Lamar and seeing Josh Allen. Josh Allen. It's just I remember Josh Allen in the playoffs last year and what we were all saying about him, and to have him turn it around.
Yeah, it's been crazy this season.
Actually,
pretty impressive.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. The two quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, both of the guys that we were just destroying last year for their playoff performances.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, going up against each other.
I mean, Josh Allen still, every now and again, you were you're not quite sure what he's going to do, which, which was the problem last year. But it's kind of working better this year because he's got Stephon Diggs and all of that, and
Yeah.
It's all kind of working a little better this year than it did last year. I guess it would be. I think it would be Bills Ravens for me. Although, like I said, I think Browns Chiefs could be pretty fun. It could be pretty wild.
Yeah.
It could also be a blowout.
I just could see it also being a blowout, a Chiefs blowout, which would not be
could swing either way.
fun. But I will say I do think Packers Rams could be pretty fun, just because as long as the two Aarons can play. As long as Aaron Donald can play against Aaron Rodgers, it could be pretty fun.
That'll be a good
But I have not
too.
been super high on the NFC as a conference this year. So.
That's true. Yeah, the AFC is way better.
Yeah.
The
AFC's been...
That's definitely true. And the AFC has all the young quarterbacks. The NFC has got all the old ones.
Yeah.
All the olds, exactly.
Yeah.
And whoever is actually quarterback for the LA Rams.
Yeah.
It might be...
that's another game I didn't really... I was like, what is happening in the Rams-Seahawks game? I was like...
Yeah,
I know, defense wins championships, but what the heck is this?
Yeah.
This isn't supposed to happen to Russell Wilson. Yeah.
I don't understand why the Rams have no healthy quarterbacks. Aaron Donald didn't even play, one quarter, maybe even most of the second half. I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Those
weird
two games,
game.
but the Browns game and the Rams game, I went, this is very confusing.
Yeah. So, obviously you work in Minneapolis to cover the Vikings. We are big Eagles fans, and let's just say we weren't exactly thrilled during the draft when we thought we were getting Justin Jefferson, and suddenly Jalen Reagor pops up on the screen. How excited were Vikings fans when Jefferson fell to them? And then, obviously, it got even more exciting as the season started.
Well, I think from a Vikings fan's perspective, I think they were very happy. I think they were going to take a receiver anyway, but I think they were lucky. They were very happy it was Jefferson. I think from a Vikings fan's perspective, the even better part of that was that he didn't go to the Packers. Because there's no way, because if the Vikings don't take Jefferson, the Packers would have. I'm pretty sure. And there's some great satisfaction of knowing that that the Packers did not get Jefferson, as happy as they are that they did. Packers are doing fine on receivers, by the way. Anyway.
Wow, yeah, Devontae Adams.
Yeah, that was an odd choice by the Eagles. But you know what? They were pretty happy. Jefferson, I think, Jefferson has been amazing. I think what's kind of interesting is that he was so good, and they barely used him the first two games because they just didn't have the preseason, they didn't have all the offseason programs they wanted to, and they just kind of slow-rolled him into the offense.
Yeah.
And once they did that, it was pretty, he fit right in. And he was not just a slot receiver like everyone said. It worked out fine. And the only thing you would question is why didn't they turn him loose a little earlier? He had good timing with Cousins from week 3 or 4, which is pretty impressive if you think about it. He's great fun. He's like, he's got a lot of personality. He's charming. He gives good interviews. He's got the dancing. He's just
the gritty.
fun to have around. Listen, I didn't need to see Kirk Cousins doing that dance. Let me tell you, that was something I didn't need in my life. But
that was hilarious.
Unnecessary.
But it's good to have another character. He gets all these Randy Moss comparisons, and that's not really fair in a lot of ways. But,
yeah, he had a great
because he was essentially traded for Diggs, right?
Yeah.
He they're compared that way too, and the whole attitude about being in a run first offense, and Diggs didn't like it, but Jefferson was like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I think that has warmed him to fans too. I mean, but at the same time, the fans here are pretty hard on Kirk Cousins generally. So
that makes sense.
and the offense specifically, and Zimmer and all of that. So they're happy to have someone on that offense who they can really root for. I mean, Dalvin Cook too. But at the same time, I think fans will say, well, they were right to complain because Kirk Cousins. Anyway.
Justin Jefferson led my team to a fantasy football championship.
We didn't have to bring that up.
Just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay.
I drafted him.
Oh, you know who led me to my fantasy football championship?
Oh.
Who?
Kirk Cousins.
Wow.
Really?
Oh, because of the last in the playoffs. Wow.
Because
playoffs.
my work league had a Week 17 championship, which, whatever. And Josh Allen was my starting quarterback. But I couldn't, in good faith, start him in Week 17 because I was not sure how much he was going to play.
Yeah.
But Kirk Cousins was my backup. He was playing the Lions, and I went, well, I can't lose. I can't lose here. Like, we're starting Kirk Cousins against the Lions instead of Josh Allen, a possible NFL MVP. Because he's going to play the whole game, and he's going to light the Lions on fire. And he did exactly that. And and my team, which for most of the regular season was not very good, won the championship because of particularly the Week 17-ness of it all. And I also had the Bills defense, which it was basically, I want to say 70% of my points were Kirk Cousins and the Bills defense, and then the rest was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could tell my coworker, my Vikings fan coworker, that he was beaten for the championship by Kirk Cousins.
That's
Perfect.
awesome. Last question. Who's winning the Super Bowl this year? Who's your pick?
I think it will be whoever wins the AFC, unless no, I still think it's whoever wins the AFC, but no offense to the Browns. I think if the Browns come out of the AFC, I'm a little like, if it's like Browns Packers, I'm like, I don't know.
I could understand that.
But I just think it's whoever comes out of the AFC. Right now, I feel like it's the Chiefs, but
that's the safe pick. Safe pick.
And if it's the Chiefs,
well, the Chiefs are
I'm like,
so
I
good.
think no
They're
question.
so good.
Yeah,
unless they get COVID, really, truly, it's like, okay,
last one standing.
One of these teams doesn't get COVID.
Hey, maybe it's the
have
Titans.
a COVID outbreak.
The Titans already got COVID. Maybe the Titans, they'll be the last one standing. They're immune.
That's the only reason why.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
I just think the AFC teams are so much better. And now I suppose there's a world where, if the Rams somehow come out of the NFC and they have this defense that is somehow really just confounds
the
AFC team. But like again, Jared Goff can't throw the ball.
Yeah.
And I watched the Rams Super Bowl. I was at the last Rams Super Bowl, and that was not fun. That was not an experience I want to repeat.
Oh yeah, that was like the worst
Super
Super Bowl to be
Rams Super Bowl was one of the worst games I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, I don't need to see that again. I mean, Aaron Donald's great, but like, no. So I still think it's a different trying to, and we'll see against the Packers, right? It's different even if you stop, if you like slow down the Chiefs offense, even if you're able to do that, right?
Yeah.
How do you score enough points?
They'll still drop 30 on you.
Yeah, easily.
That's slowing them down.
How do you score enough points to beat the Chiefs? Like, yeah, they scored a lot of points against the Seahawks, but like some of that was defensive touchdowns, and like I don't know what Seahawks were doing.
Yeah.
Seahawks defense is not very good, but yeah, I just don't see the defense winning the championship necessarily coming to fruition here. I think you need a solid enough defense to contain some of these offenses, but if your offense cannot, at least, you're right, the Chiefs on a bad day can score 30 points. I mean, even the game against the Buccaneers earlier this season where they went up, Tyreek like 250 yards at halftime.
Yeah.
Even in that game, the Chiefs still almost lost it. Like not almost lost it, but they were able to come back. They kind of stopped scoring. The Chiefs kind of stopped scoring.
Yeah.
And the Buccaneers were able to come back to get pretty close.
Yeah.
They still needed to score 30 points to win that game.
Yeah.
So
even
if they stopped the Chiefs from scoring in the second half very much, and I think you're right. Like even if you slow down the Chiefs, you got to score at least 3 touchdowns.
And that's why the Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl.
I think the Ravens could do that. I think. Wait, that's not the wrong conference, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The Packers can do it. The Saints can do it for sure. And the Saints also have a pretty good defense, which is a big part of why they're so good.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers, I don't know. I don't think anybody wants to see Tom Brady. Well,
Nope.
I
Let's
don't
not
want to see
even bring
Brady
that
in the
up.
Super Bowl again.
No.
I don't need to hear that. I don't need to hear that for 2 weeks straight. Please don't. At home? No. I'll listen to all the Aaron Rodgers takes. In fact, I actually think it would be kind of funny if Aaron Rodgers made it to the Super Bowl after the whole, we drafted Jordan Love in the first round, and everyone thought,
that would be great.
That'd be the best storyline.
Think about this. I was like, Aaron Rodgers go to the Super Bowl. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Go Packers, I guess.
Wow. I did not think that's how this interview would end. Go Packers. Holy cow.
Listen, we started this talking about, storylines and narratives. And
That's
if
true.
If the narratives that I want to see,
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to hear, maybe Drew Brees. It would be Drew Brees' last game for sure. There's no way Drew Brees doesn't retire.
Yeah.
The
That'd
guy's
be a good way to
had
go out.
25 broken ribs. He's got to retire.
Yeah.
Drew Brees is a good story. I wouldn't mind hearing that. Aaron Rodgers, good story. I wouldn't mind hearing that. But I don't need to hear Tom Brady's story again.
Yeah. For the 20th time.
8th time.
Yeah.
This time in Tampa.
Yeah. Super Bowl. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, they've got one new angle on it, and it's Tampa Bay. So.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Exactly.
Thank you for your time, Nyla. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, I'm glad.
Thank you so
I'm glad.
much.
Well, good luck to you guys on your little venture.
Thank you.
Let me know if you need to talk about other things in the future.
Well, that was a great interview. Super interesting. I really enjoyed it. Owen, being there yourself, what did you think of it?
I was just shocked. It was unbelievable that we were able to get a person who covers the Vikings and kind of roots for them. Obviously, media members have to be unbiased, but kind of roots for the Vikings.
Yeah.
To say, go Packers.
That is pretty big.
That is
very
quite
big.
the soundbite, and I was very surprised by that.
I mean, that's like getting a Cowboys writer to go Eagles.
Kind of, yeah, because Vikings-Packers is a pretty big
rivalry. Yeah.
Be on the lookout for more interviews. We're trying to do more of that with the podcast this year, so there will be multiple interviews coming up, so be on the lookout for that.
You know what else you should be on the lookout for?
JG Grable Plumbing.
I was going to say leaks in your pipe. So
Well,
that you can call it JG
you
Grable
should be on
Plumbing.
the lookout for that.
I should be.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers go to the Super Bowl. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Go Packers, I guess.